What's next? What do you think will be the next technological advancement or addition to broadcast? What do you want to see?
One they're already experimenting with, although I've yet to be convinced by, but I think has huge potential, is drones. So, of course, most the aerial footage of races is from a helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, when you're at the track, watching the helicopter in itself is sometimes more entertaining than watching the race because it's banking low, it's coming up over trees and tracing cars around the track. So that's great. But the potential for drones is very high. But at the moment, they've only really had them running on kind of bits of the infield for obvious reasons, because if they fall out of the sky and onto the track, you've got an issue. So they've never quite been able to get over the cars or as close to the cars as you would hope, and as you often see in promotional videos and kind of GoPro's own promotional videos. But the teams have done it occasionally. So they have what they call filming days, which is when they get all their filming to share with their sponsors and all of that kind of stuff and all the photographs they need for the year. And they get a couple of those a year. And a few of those, they've taken drones out and flown them over cars as they go around parts of the circuit. And it looks incredible. So if you can find, and this may never be possible, but if you can find a drone that's reliable enough to kind of fly just 2 or 3 meters above the cars as they go into the first corner, that would be sensational. But I don't know if we'll ever get there. I don't really know what the limitations are on drones. I'm sure some listeners will know much better than I do and why that's impossible. But I think that would be fantastic to see.
You know, they say air traffic controllers have the most stressful jobs of anybody. And I don't know, do you call them drone flyers or do you call them drone drivers? Whatever the terminology is. I couldn't imagine the stress, because some of these people, I mean, you see these promotions, these commercials that are all done by drone footage. They're incredible. The nooks and crannies that they're flying. You've seen the stadiums that they showcase, new openings of, let's take you through this new stadium or new arena. The way that they can fly these things is unbelievable, but I couldn't imagine the stress if you were taxed with, hey, we're going to have you be our drone flyer driver for an F1 Grand Prix. That would be, I couldn't.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine one falls on the track and they're like, we have to red flag the race?
No, and it's on you.
Can you imagine that? And you're the guy. There's no coming back from that. So one thing they do seem to have gone away from a bit more. They used to be really hot on these. I used to love them. Was the little cameras that would sit inside the corners, so you'd have cars going over them. You still see them occasionally. But there was an era when I think that Formula One was just obsessed with them. And every race you'd have, every lap, it'd be like, no. And they'd all be coming through the corners. And it would just be great because you'd see how fast they were going. And they don't seem to do that so much now. I'm not sure if there's a reason behind that. But I used to love those. So I don't know whether maybe they're just considered a bit too old school now. There's so many new innovations you can have. But I used to love those. Those used to look fantastic.
They do still have them.
They do. Maybe they're less spectacular now. That might be the other thing. Maybe I noticed them less.
I think there's a slight reluctance because you have no idea what's going on. So somebody could be overtaken. You just see
that's true.
One red flash at a Ferrari and one silver flash at a Mercedes, and that's your lot. But I think they occasionally use them. But I know they definitely still exist because on one of the, I think it was a Thursday, so a media day for us at the French Grand Prix, I was sat in the press room and we have all the TVs up there which show us the race, obviously, when the race is on. But at those times of the weekend, they're just showing stock camera footage. So sometimes you get a view down the pit straight or whatever. Anyway, but one got stuck on one of these curve cams, and you can see all these people doing what we call a track run, which is when you try and stay fit at a Formula One race and you run around the track a couple of times. And you see all these people panting in 30-degree heat in France trying to do it. So they definitely still exist, because I remember sending a picture of one to somebody who was doing a track run. And I saw them on it, but but not used so often. You're right, and I think this stuff really goes through trends, doesn't it? Real trends of one thing or another. And one thing which I really didn't like was when F1 was superimposing either messages, or on one occasion we had the superimposed shadow of an eagle flying over turn 1 at Kota just midway through the race. And I think it was kind of end of the Bernie era, and I think they were like, right, what can we do? We must do something new and innovative in TV. How can we do it? And to try and detract from the fact that some of the racing got really quite dull. And so they started flying imaginary eagles over turn 1, which I don't really want to have returns Formula 1.
Speaking of Kota, there was one. It wasn't really an F1 innovation at Kota, but it was one that definitely should be brought in for just the humor. I don't know if you watched this race, Katie, or if you can remember it, but there was, I think it was 17 or 18. It was one of the first ones I did at Kota as a journalist, and you could hear somebody on the mic going "no, no, no" like that, and he'd found a mic somewhere, and he was doing the car sounds. And to his credit, David Croft, when he's doing the world feed, says, "Oh, there's somebody, has found." He's kind of laughing it off a little bit, but it was fantastic. And then he'd filmed himself doing it as well. I always thought that was great because
Who was it? Just a random.
I think
worker?
it was a random. I think maybe he was working at the circuit or something. But I don't think the race was the most exciting one either, or maybe it was at a lull in the race or something like that. But that one always sticks out. Maybe you couldn't do that every week, before, get annoying very quickly. But for maybe a dull race, maybe you put someone next to a microphone and say, "Do your best car impression."
From when he started the sounds to when he was found, how long transpired?
Oh, a few days. A few days, because so it was shown on the broadcast, and then it was kind of laughed at, and I think there was a few more where you could hear it, and then the video emerged of him doing it a day or two later, and he's doing it with this big grin on his face. He's kind of laughing as he does it. So yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. I don't know actually what happened to that guy. So on the off chance he's listening to this pod, please do get in touch. But yeah, I loved it.
We'll
but
have
yeah, Yeah. I mean, he can do some sounds for us, and we can use them for transitions and stuff like that. But yeah, that's some good. I'm gonna, as soon as we finish the show, I'm gonna Google what happened to the Kota sound guy.
That's incredible. Oh, there are worse names to have, by the way.
Yeah, definitely.
He should take that.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.